Reboot it!
Hey everyone, I'm Ron Swallow, and welcome to Reboot Rewind. This is the official after show for Reboot It. Today I'm joined by Ed Greer.
Hey.
And producer Bill.
I'm down here.
Dang it.
Over there.
If you ever get it right, they're going to think it's a pod person or something. So just keep doing your thing.
I'm going to just keep doing it wrong on purpose. But here today, we're going to talk about our take on the real American hero, G.I. Joe.
Go, Joe.
That's right. So this was our attempt to make war fun and marketable, or at least that's how it seemed during the episode.
I got to tell you, I recall very little of where we ended up with this pitch, and I'm sure it'll come back to me as we start to talk about it. But I do recall a lot of like the first 20 to 30 minutes just talking about like, how do we actually make this work? And Ed being like, I don't understand what the big deal is. Like, it's just soldiers with sci-fi gadgets. Like, what's the big deal?
Yep. I mean, that's as reductive as that is. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And by the way, Ed, you're not wrong. It's just I don't think I came into this episode with the agenda of like, oh, G.I. Joe, we got to fix this. But the minute I started thinking about like, how do you tell a story with G.I. Joe, I just felt so uncomfortable. I just felt like, is that what we want to do?
No, because from a certain point of view, it's the exact same crap as ever. Every country, if you go watch a movie in Denmark, Denmark saves the world. Go watch a movie in China, China saves the world. But America, we have a big problem with that. We think we're the savior of everybody in real life. We think we're the savior of everybody definitely in our fiction.
I mean, so much so that I would argue other countries actually make movies about how we go and make war upon them. Yeah, whether that be actual war or economic war or whatever. Like
here's the thing though, is when other countries make those movies, they don't at least in the ones I've seen, they don't reduce the US to like mustache twirlers with eye patches wanting to come and like rape their lands. You know, they have an operating assumption that's a little bit more nuanced than that. And I think where G.I. Joe really gets into trouble is the fact that like Destro and Cobra Commander and all those guys are just so evil, like with the long mustache evil.
Yeah.
And it just, it's just like, I don't know. There's just something problematic about trying to turn war into a cartoon. I don't know.
There you go. And that's exactly right. And that was also another thing that kept tripping me up was like, that's why we're making a movie and we can give it a little nuance. And if we respect it enough, we can give it all the things we're talking about. And I just felt like for like about 30 minutes, it was a battle of, is this even a thing? You know what I mean? Is this even a thing? And then we can go on. Whereas with like, I don't know, Power Rangers, just everybody's got 100% buy-in in 2 freaking seconds. And it's like, oh my God, this is teenagers from one city saving the universe with their own discretion and their own. That's just as problematic as the United States doing it, frankly.
You know what I think it is, though? I really think it's a villain problem. And I again, this is in retrospect. I don't know if I articulated this at the time, but looking back, I think my biggest problem wasn't so much with like, I mean, yes, there's a problem with like G.I. Joe as part of the military and how should or does the military act. But I also think, what the hell is Cobra? Like, I'm still so confused about I get what Cobra is in the cartoon.
The problem is that, and this is kind of why I like Magic and Fantasy, by the way, because in Magic and Fantasy, say Eternia and He-Man, Skeletor being an over-the-top evil bad guy, or arguably we made that a little bit better, but being that almost makes sense because it's a fantasy land. And I would argue the same thing exists for a couple of those cartoons you mentioned, whereas G.I. Joe is almost like saying, this is America's heroes. And so there's some realism into that. So when you make bad guys that are so over the top, like evil bad guys who don't seem to have like a specific thing that they're doing except for fighting G.I. Joe, you go, okay, well, what's happening there? Like you're not fighting good for the purpose of triumphing over good in this situation. You're just fighting because you're fighting. Like if you're making it more realistic, like as in an army show, I think maybe
that's sort of the thing, right? Is if you try to achieve verisimilitude, especially with Cobra, where it's not, again, it doesn't have to be realistic, but you at least have to understand how it works in the context of its own world. It's like, all right, this is some sort of organization that is a worldwide network with tons of money to burn on really expensive military stuff that isn't for some reason getting shut down by any government. So like, is it a rogue country? Is it a corporation? Is it something else? And if it's something else, how do you define that in a way where it's not like Al-Qaeda, because it's clearly not that? I don't know. It's such a sticky wicket. Like I don't quite know what to make of it.
Well, no, and I think that, and we can move on after this, but that's exactly that's why I have a big, like, I'm mad at myself for this episode. Like, you not liking it, Ron not really digging it anymore because he's become a peacenik in his old age, and Billy as a raw babe in the woods with leaves on his privates and stuff, stumbling into this in regards to his knowledge of the product. It was incumbent upon me to have all this Rolodex of stuff, but I also felt that if I approached it that way, there goes Twilight. You know what I'm saying? There be dragons over there where it's like, well, I'm the expert, so let me tell you how it goes, dummies. If I am too much like that and too much like, oh, that question you have, I've solved it with this box top I read when I was 12. You know what I mean? Like, that's stupid, and that isn't the spirit of the show. So, and I'm not saying me being more prepared or more involved would have saved the episode. That is not my quibble with it. My quibble was what contributions I did do, I feel were some of the most wrong steps we took. Like the next thing we're going to get to, I made Snake Eyes the main character, like reflectively, like hitting your knee with that little hammer. I made Snake Eyes the main character, which was a wrong as hell move that constricted our process for 20, 30, 40 minutes. And other things that I'll detail later. You know what I'm saying? Just like little bits of wrong choices from my expert position. I feel like I lost the war. And that's why I want this episode to be, do we get to win this time? Because towards then, I'll proffer some ideas on how we could have shorted up. And last things last, to the question you asked, we didn't make Cobra anything. Even in our overall reboot, we never made Cobra anything. And I got some fixes that we can talk about later, but like, we never made Cobra anything. You've seized on it, Bill. That was exactly right. If you're not, how are you going to be warriors if you ain't fighting nobody? If what you're fighting is the marshmallow man, you know what I'm saying? That was messed up.
I'm just excited at the amount of prep that Ed has clearly put into this episode. There's a lot we're going to get to, so let's do it.
So first off, though, I am kind of curious because this is a good question, and I don't remember. Does anyone remember why we picked G.I. Joe? Even though obviously, besides Ed and even Ed, we're all kind of blah on it.
Yeah,
does anybody remember why?
I think this one was a toy-based decision. That's it. I think it was Billy, myself, and everybody at the time. I think we agreed that it was the type of thing. This was our step towards Transformers, basically. How do you reboot something that is basically exclusively toyetic? Because basically, it's the first time we've done that, to my knowledge. Besides, I guess, He-Man, but even He-Man, there's been more hay made these days of all the different styles of trying to sell the product as an entertainment product than there have been with the toys. So this one is like straight up, how are we going to do a toyetic reboot?
I think we were also just looking for more kind of beloved properties of the 80s. Just in terms of a way, because as I recall, this was from season 2. And I think rounding out season 2, we were heavy on superheroes and heavy on the 90s. And we were like, how can we just get like a good nostalgia throwback bomb? Especially because this was our last episode before jumping into Fantastic Four. So we were like, let's stay away from superheroes. Let's not do any of the big name, Marvel or DC characters. What else could we do that's still going to be a crowd pleaser, but, doesn't fit in with everything that we had been doing already?
Yeah. Okay. That makes some sense. So, should I get to the pitch here?
Yeah, might as well. I need the refresher because I remember the Snake Eyes. I remember the Snake Eyes arguments for sure, but
I want the pitch in that. Yeah.
All right, so G.I. Joe and Cobra fought a secret war with advanced experimental weapons that threatened the entire world. That conflict ended in the 80s when, after saving the world countless times, the Joes finally defeated Cobra and eliminated their fabled commander. The Joes' reward was having their entire program scrapped and their heroism forgotten. In the present day, CoverGirl, a computer whiz intelligence analyst and former military pilot, is assigned to the Pentagon. She's asked to use her skills to decrypt a floppy disk and extract its information. There's something very old and important on these disks, but none of the modern military guys can access it, and they need to, and soon. But just then, the Pentagon is attacked by a terrorist group led by Destro and the Baroness. They are armed with futuristic technology, very reminiscent of the band G.I. Joe and Cobra Tech. CoverGirl just barely escapes the massacre with the discs and is picked up by Beachhead, the only Joe close enough to respond. They set out on a journey to decrypt the disc, gather the Joes, and find the secret base that now stores the Joes' old tech. Maybe that's Area 51, we kind of didn't decide. After gathering the old Joes and some new recruits, they gather along the way. CoverGirl and Beachhead lead the Joes on a counter-assault. They must stop Destro and the Baroness from accessing orbital technology from the 80s and using it to kill millions. Little sidebar. Ed and Bill and I and Billy didn't know that G.I. Joe Rectum Retaliation, or whatever it's called, also stole this rods from God plot involving dropping things from space to kill millions on Earth, but at least we added a twist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on, Ron.
Because it turns out that Beachhead and the Joes are being goaded into crossing the line on the world stage, which would turn the other countries against the U.S. and start a new world war for this new version of Cobra to profit off of. The Joes discover this plot and defeat Cobra the right way with the rest of the world's blessing and maybe some of their warriors as new Joes. In the end, G.I. Joe is reinstated as a world peacekeeping force with people of all nations contributing now that the entire world has a renewed enemy in Cobra. Then there's a post-credits sequence where some old truck reveals itself to be a transformer because the Hasbro overlords would make us do that probably. So, the cast: Brad Pitt as Beachhead, ruthless and demanding personality, instructor trainer of the G.I. Joes. Mackenzie Davis as CoverGirl, pilot, gearhead, hacker, all the cool stuff. The new Joes, but not new to kicking butt, right? Jamie Foxx as Sergeant Stalker. Infantry second specialties are interpreter and medic. Rachel Weisz as Lady J. Rachel is replacing Gemma Arterton, who dropped out of this movie to play Wonder Woman in our reboot. I gotta let you guys know.
Who wrote this?
Ed wrote this. I just gotta let you know.
A lot of color commentary in this recap.
Yeah. Gemma Arterton is who we picked. Michael J. White as Heavy Duty. Rick Gonzalez as Crazy Legs. Daniel Day Kim as Quick Kick, working as a stuntman, Silent Weapons, dual citizen of Korea and the U.S. Cobra, Winston Duke as Destro. J-Lo as the Baroness, but really Sofia Vergara would be better.
yeah, I did put that. The only reason
dude, I don't think I can let you write these scripts anymore.
Yeah, yes, you can, because this one needed it. It's a fucking it's an ensemble. Go ahead.
Dr. Mindbender, Gerard Butler, Dread Knox, and Cobra Grunts. Those are like, we'll have a cool stunt team.
Yeah.
let's see, director Gareth Evans of The Raid. That's who we eventually decided on. I think we also made an argument that we would, if we could back up the truck to the Russo brothers, that maybe we'd let them do it too.
I don't know, man. I like Gareth Evans. Gareth Evans is a solid pick for this.
Well, we said back up the truck, and then we said it economical. I think even you might have led the charge on that, Bill, even though I vehemently agreed because I love the Raid movies. But like, he's a more economical, realistic. After we spent all that damn money getting Brad Pitt and other people, need to save a little bit of money.
Can I just say, forgetting, coming into this, I'd forgotten a lot of the pitch. That pitch kicks ass. I gotta just go into this. Ed, I feel like you have really wrung your hands over this G.I. Joe episode. Like, this is one of your least favorite, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a good pitch. I mean, what is it about this that stuck with you as being like a bad episode?
Well, I mean, first of all, the reason why I will be writing some of these scripts going forward is I made that pitch better in the description of it because there were so many parts that we actually left out because Cobra didn't have such a clear-cut goal as whatever that seems like it was in there. I mean, even though I just said that they attacked a couple times, I made it seem like at least they had some agenda. I assure you they did not. In the original pitch, they didn't. There wasn't any overarching. There wasn't even the thing that we normally do. Which
now you really can't write the script because you just lied to the people.
No. And Gerard Butler wasn't even Dr. Mindbender.
No, he wasn't.
That I remember that. We never talked about Gerard Butler.
And, no. So basically, in essence, we have, as one of our commenters stated, two ethnics attacking the U.S. for no reason and no gain, without even an ethos behind them, like you ruined my country, your imperialism it's just sort of intoned that might be the reason. We didn't even do our classic Die Hard 3 thing of it's a giant heist, which is what I posit now. I think a giant terrorist action of that type to get money to fund stuff, because like you said, Bill, why are they independently wealthy? Why are these terrorist people always independently wealthy, but real terrorists are somehow wealthy from oil and stuff sometimes in certain scenarios?
Well, before you get into the fixes, I do recall in this original pitch the whole idea that like G.I. Joe versus Cobra had happened in the 80s. G.I. Joe had won, and essentially then like the remnants of Cobra that had been festering in the shadows come back to strike at the U.S. And I do remember the idea that we open with like the Pentagon being blown up, which I still love because it's like throw down the gauntlet, baby.
Yep.
And then the whole twist of like the G.I. Joes think that they're on the run to take control of like this old weapons technology before Cobra can get to it. But it's really more Cobra's manipulating the Joes to essentially go like off the reservation to just ruin the U.S.'s standing in the world. All that was in the original pitch. I think that's all pretty valid. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I didn't change the pitch. I added stuff. I sprinkled some salt on stuff that was there.
Okay.
I didn't change basic elements except adding Dr. Mindbender, which is, I think, could do something to fix the motivations of why some of these people are doing stuff. But, and also give us a multi-ethnic villain place, much like we have a multi-ethnic hero team.
Again, you just made me lie to the people, and I don't like it.
Whatever.
What I think is interesting, though, is the way that we set this up as essentially this is like a big Cobra revenge plot did end up solving a lot of those Cobra issues that I had coming into it. Because number one, in terms of like who they are and why they have this money, you kind of punt and tuck that away in the past. And it's like, well, when any movement like that is dismantled, the people who had money coming into it are the people who still have money after all the grunts are put in jail. Yeah. So the idea that like Destro and whatever her name, whoever J-Lo's playing,
the
Baroness, the idea that like they could have some secret fortune that they're still drawing on that's hidden away in Russian banks, like I totally buy that, because at that point it's like, yeah, they just inherited it from Cobra Commander. How did he get it? That's so distant to the story, I don't care anymore, you know?
Yeah, no. All I'm saying is we never, sold their motivations at all, because this revenge plot that you're stating was never stated in the episode. I have recently watched the episode twice. We never said that they were getting revenge on anybody. It was more or less and it was whatever was in everybody's headcanon as to why they were doing it. And in my headcanon, it was, these were much like what you said, these were the remnants of Cobra, but this is a Cobra that can actually be ruthless and cool, because they don't have a dummy for a leader anymore. They got Destro. That was my fan service of just like, that every fan of G.I. Joe knows that Destro is the star scream of the franchise. He kind of should be leader. He's in his own way more ruthless than the actual leader. And the actual leader just gets put over because he's the leader. But why are we following this guy? It'd be more like Spock, I guess. Destro's like Spock, looking at Captain Kirk make all these mistakes that he wouldn't make with his Vulcan intelligence and powers and stuff. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I did. And Destro and the Baroness being a equal team, that's like a blow against misogyny. That's, that's all this stuff. You know what I mean? So
these are woke terrorists.
Yeah. which we didn't even do. We could have given them wokeism things, which maybe would have been its own good way to sell it, because a lot of people who like G.I. Joe are kind of anti that. So it would be like Joe fights wokeness, and then you go to the movie and you realize the movie was woker than anything you could have ever dreamed.
Maybe.
That
feels like a fraught. That feels fraught.
Well, but that leads to our next argument, which is the Snake Eyes conundrum, that where Ron got relentlessly attacked for what some may call a faux pas.
Yeah. Hold on, let me see if I can find these guys. So yeah, for the record, in issue 94 of the G.I. Joe comic, Snake Eyes has blonde hair, blue eyes, and is white. At least that's what Larry Hama made Snake Eyes. So also Snake Eyes did speak before a helicopter accident where I believe he saved Scarlet. His face got burnt up and his vocal cords got seared from the jet fuel igniting, which is why he cannot speak anymore. I just thought he should be Asian, mostly because I watched the live action movie and he was.
Well, in the first one, he wasn't anything because he was Ray Park. And in the second one, it was Storm Shadow that was. And then this new one that they're doing, which you saw a trailer of, Snake Eyes is obviously Asian, as is Storm Shadow.
That must be what I've been thinking.
The correct match.
I've never watched the first one.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is
Ray Park. I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah. But like I said, what I just said was definitely correct. So that being the case, that was one of the reasons why Ron saw Snake Eyes as Asian. And frankly, I don't see anything wrong with that, because this whole concept that just because Larry Hama, or rather Hama, as he likes to pronounce it, made Snake Eyes blue-eyed and blonde hair, that doesn't mean that was like him being like, this is the greatest thing. I'm doing this on purpose and it's so great. I think it's natural for somebody in the 80s to have a kung fu cracker on the team. Frankly, I think that was big in the 80s. American Ninja was out there. There's so many ways that this whole, the Daredevil is a white ninja. To a certain extent, they made Iron Fist a white ninja in the later conceptions of stuff, like a white savior to beat up the Asians at their own game and be the best. And I think we're just trying to get away from that, as the actual continuity is trying to get away from that. And I don't even know what the hell is wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it. Although Geek Soup did have this to say. Ron making Snake Eye talk is one of the worst ideas in the long, sad history of bad ideas. First off, Snake Eyes isn't.
He's got little Debbie's in his. He's got little Debbie's in his eyes.
Snake Eyes. I want to eat his face. Isn't Japanese. He's Caucasian with blonde hair and blue eyes. So you wouldn't be silencing minority characters. Second, the whole pathos behind the character is that actions speak louder than words. You completely undermine the point and mystique of the character. I am posting August 1st because I still think about this sometimes and how terrible of an idea this is. Ron, I really do like you, but I have to use the Billy Madison quote here. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Fair. Tough, but fair.
Yeah, totally fair. Except for, here's the thing. I don't care. In fact, I want to make a joke where in fact he talks more than everybody else. He talks so much it's annoying. He's like
Deadpool.
He's like Hannibal, not Hannibal. Murdoch on the A-Team.
See, I was thinking you were saying he should be Hannibal Buress, in which case we also avoid the white savior trope. He's a fat black ninja, and he talks in a monotone voice, making fun of everything sarcastically. That's what he is.
Bad. That's not bad either.
Hannibal would be so mad you called him fat. He's like,
I'm sorry, Hannibal. I'm sorry.
Just a little chunky.
You're not fat. I just slovenly. I don't know if that's better.
That's definitely not.
I think that's worse.
I'm never getting on Comedy Central.
I'm definitely tagging Hannibal Buress in this. So.
Damn it! For the record, I love Hannibal Buress, one of my favorite comedians. So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
I wanna add in something. Ed put in something that said, "Come up with a better joke than there is no God," which is funny because it is something that I thought while reading the script. That's how well Ed knows me. That's how well Ed knows me, as he knows for a second I was like, yeah, I don't have to worry about God taking mercy on my soul because there's no souls. So
Ed is pre-criticizing the comedy.
Yeah. It's pretty excellent, Ed. You're not wrong. You know me well. That's how well you know me.
Oh, God. You know your judo well.
So I do want to put this one up as well. Oh wait, not this one. The second one. Just finished the episode. Pretty good. The guys seem to have fun on this one. Not sure how the audience will accept a G.I. Joe movie without Cobra Commander or Snake Eyes. Bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off. Nero the hero.
That's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off. That's an underrated line. We need to hear that line used more out of context.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes,
and we did actually end up including Snake Eyes, but I think we did suggest that we shouldn't at first, right?
I think we didn't end up including Snake Eyes because Bill led the charge of how the hell is this guy gonna lead the movie and have this emotional whatever if he can't talk.
I was going to say, I know that's, to quote Nero, that is a bold move. But I think, number one, it leaves us something for the sequels. Yeah. Number two, it definitely sparks some conversation amongst the fanboys, which is just going to get us all that free publicity. And then number three, I think removing Cobra Commander and just sort of having him forever be a painting on the wall as like this dude who was big in the 80s and died, and we're all trying to live up to his example, is the best use of Cobra Commander because, to Ed's point, he kind of sucks. So just let him be like this lost figurehead. And then you also get into some of the nuance of how like strongman fascist movements, find their power is by holding up people as these figureheads. Yeah. So I think it's a good move, at least as far as Cobra Commander. I know, people have strong feelings about Snake Eyes for whatever reason, whatever.
Well, he's badass. I'll admit he's bad. He's supposed to be the badass of the badasses. So, but with Ed, I agree with Ed that Cobra Commander was honestly just not as cool as Destro. In my opinion, he's just not as cool. Getting rid of him makes sense to me because Destro is a cooler character. Simple as that. Like nothing complicated in my mind.
Can I also just proffer the hot take that Cobra Commander is just a super weak sauce Dr. Doom and Snake Eyes is just a super weak sauce Batman? Like essentially they're just knockoffs of popular characters fitted into the G.I. Joe world, I would think.
Yeah, that's awesome. We should make sure to hashtag G.I. Joe this one specifically so we can get some G.I. Joe fans here who become angrier than they've ever been after they hear Bill say that. That'd be great.
Yep.
Well, I mean, no, but just realistically, though, I mean, even if you took a little bit of the cayenne off of that take that Bill just laid down, it is inserting a ninja into the military in the 80s, which is the king hack move of all time. Yeah, even if you consider them early adopters of ninja stuff, which I do, Daredevil, which begat Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then I would put a little bit behind that in 80, 82, 83, 84, Snake Eyes. So he was an early adopter of it. I got to give him that, but it's still in the aggregate a hack move that isn't that super cool right now. And honestly, we're already trying to like we had to sell Bill for 20-30 minutes on super soldiers. That I'm not trying to say that you were not saying that soldiers aren't great or the military isn't great, but it is true that in the modern day, when super soldiers, according to us, throw shields and lift helicopters, how do you make this modern, for lack of a better word, Mission Impossible force cool when we already have the Mission Impossible force and we have James Bond and we have almost every version of human soldier acuity already and firmly entrenched? How do you make this 80s thing look cool?
Yeah. We made it kind of sci-fi too, which I think is a big deal. I think especially,
but as I said in the episode, though, it is sci-fi. The main,
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, so we kept it sci-fi. That is actually probably more correct. We kept it sci-fi, and by one of the traditions in sci-fi, I'm sure I've mentioned this before, is being able to tackle social problems through the lens of sci-fi fiction, and like a ridiculously almost magical version of science sometimes, right? And that, I think, in some ways we did a pretty good job tackling the idea of how people should cooperate when there is an actual threat. And to me, that was one of the things I liked while watching it. Was like, I kind of feel like there was a through line and a theme to that idea, that which I personally liked. I don't know how about you guys?
I agree with that. I mean, I think one of the triumphs of the episode was that idea of sort of splitting. There was the glory days in the 80s and there's the now. And essentially, this is a story about transitioning G.I. Joe from the thing you knew in the 80s to what it maybe should be in the modern era. And we're essentially telling that story. And part of that story is a more global, international, acceptance, is a more considered way to do these military operations. And I think making that diegetic, making that like the point of the story, it was a good move. I think that's a really good way to tackle some of these more problematic parts of the franchise.
I agree.
Yep. Absolutely. Another fun comment here was from Goten. He said, "This episode is hilarious. Y'all are awesome. My first thought was the stunt coordinator from The Winter Soldier who went on to direct Extraction on Netflix. That movie is constant kinetic energy with well-executed fight choreography. Y'all are right, though. The dude who directed Parasite is way too smart for this franchise."
I remember that.
Yeah. And I would like to be like, oh, I take exception to that and blah, blah, blah. But really, he's basically right. The one thing I would say, though, is what if he wasn't? Like, what if we could somehow, you know what I mean? I think we think of these movies as jingoistic and stupid, and it was part of the battle of this episode that I feel knowing was half the battle, and half of this freaking episode was like these sort of jingoistic soldier concepts can be modified to be true heroes in the modern age. And I think over the course of the thing, the triumph of the episode is I think we ended up doing that. I love the twist that Bill put into the pitch about maybe Beachhead is a little bit too into this new war coming back. It's almost like in Tremors, there was a survivalist couple. And when the Tremors started happening, they were happy as a pig and you know what, because they got to use all their guns and they got to drive their big truck with its big wheels. And then once it became, no, this is really horrible, even for people that well armed and that well, libertarian or whatever, they started to realize that maybe we shouldn't invite chaos. Maybe we should invite war because it affects all of us, even the soldiers. Maybe there are certain better ways to take care of war and to assuage war than to just constantly wage it. So there was a lot to when Beachhead's about to make a move, and then there isn't a big bunch of preparation. I just wanted it to be as an addendum to the script that we wrote. Basically, China is purported to be the place where the control thing is for all of this super technology, and Beachhead is about to basically say, screw Geneva Convention, screw everything. We're going to invade China, or infiltrate it rather, and go in there and basically risk starting World War III because we know the weapons of mass destruction are over there. And he's about to go do it. And the one fix I wanted to do is like, while he says he's going to go do that, and some of the Joes go, well, it's kind of what we used to do. Let's go do that. Even some of the older Joes like Lady J and stuff, maybe they go with Beachhead to do that mission because screw it. That's how we used to do it. Cover Girl, Stalker, and maybe I wrote down Cover Girl, Stalker, and maybe Crazy Legs are like, that's going to start World War II. I mean, World War III. This is nuts. We can't go with you to do that. And they do something like slingshot themselves into space out of like a high altitude plane. They slingshot themselves through atmosphere in some weird 90s module that never got made or whatever. Slingshot themselves out into orbit to go to where the rods from God are. And right when they get up there and take out maybe some guards that are up there, I don't know, do some espionage stuff. But then they realize that it's all an elaborate front and Beachhead and them are wrong. And they communicate and save Beachhead and them from doing stuff and divert them to where they should be, and then lead an assault and win the day. That, diplomacy and thinking wins out. You know what I mean? And that little,
I like that.
I like it too. I did think you were going to say that like Beachhead gears up all the old Joes to go and infiltrate China. And then Cover Girl is just like, yeah, I've got somebody on the phone from the Chinese military. They'll let us just fly in. What are you guys talking? You know what I mean? Like just completely undercut that idea of like, we need to go in and be badasses. I don't know. I think that could be funny.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah, dude. And I just think it's just also it responds to the Peters directive. I know sometimes I like to not take Peters seriously, but Peters did say on some level China should be a villain in this movie. And I just think if China's just like, no, we're not going to allow your UN team of dorks to come in our sovereign territory and lift our mattress and try to find terrorists. Are you kidding me? No, we're not going to let you do that. We're a sovereign country. If we have a problem in our country, we'll investigate it and sort it out. You guys stay outside of our borders where you belong, losers. That wouldn't be a wrong position for China to take, but it would also appear villainous to our American eyes. So it kind of hits all the stuff. And again, if we did just roll up in there, flipping over people's, bowls looking for terrorists, I think that would be a nice thing to have them call in some of those loans they have on the United States.
100%.
Well, I think this might be a good comment to add in here because my favorite thing about this show is that good is never enough. You keep pushing harder until you're actually excited. And that's what I feel a lot of movies are missing. Mad respect to your dedication to the creative process. And I think that's included right now as Ed adds stuff into it.
Yeah. And I kind of retract the Dr. Mindbender thing. Can you put Sage Forsaken's comment up there? I wasn't moved by it because it's just as dumb as a lot of comments that we get sometimes. But at the same time, from the mouths of babes. It's the one about
yes. Okay, let me see if I don't seem to have that one.
It's also in the script, I think.
While Ron is, if I could vamp for a second, just going back to the previous comment about director choice, I gotta say, for some reason, I've recently rediscovered my love of Paul Greengrass. And I think if you only know Paul Greengrass from the Bourne movies, you're doing yourself a disservice because Captain Phillips is just goddamn excellent filmmaking. I just recently watched for the first time 22nd July, which is about the, I think, Norwegian terrorist attack where a bunch of kids were killed, and it like dramatizes that stuff. And it is horrifying. And the fact that he managed to make a true story about a terrorist attack where dozens of children are murdered on screen, and it happened within the past 10 years, and it comes across as like sensitive and triumphant in the end, is just one of the greatest achievements I've ever seen in filmmaking. That's a little bit to the side of what I'm saying, but like that dude finds the pathos and the heart and the emotion in military action the way I've seen nobody else do on screen. I mean, The way he uses Navy SEALs at the end of Captain Phillips, just it makes me think like, oh, this story that we're talking about would be in genius hands, because he's a guy who can simultaneously appreciate like the unbelievable precision and training of the military, and also just feel absolutely horrible about why the military exists and some of the things they have to do in order to execute the mission. So I don't know. I just a guy to throw out there for director choice.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
And I'm just going to read the one that Sage Forsaken said, because I can't find it right now, but I'll add it in on post, guys.
Or you could just read it. That's fine.
Calm down. I'm leaving all of this in. Sage Forsaken. Sage Forsaken. You are making a movie where Destro is the bad guy, is black, J-Lo is bad, Latino. You need Mindbender, so there is a bad guy, white guy too.
And okay, now look, like I said, I think that's just as kind of low-minded, I won't call it dumb, as a lot of comments that we get. But what made me think that sparked something genius was a fix that didn't need to be fixed, but I wanted to throw it out there as a thing that I was thinking about. It isn't as brilliant as my slingshot into space to avoid war with China edition. I preface it with that. But just as we never really gave Cobra a motivation, I wanted at the end of all of this giant highfalutin cause World War. Oh, and that's what I put into the script, even that it should be that they were trying to profit off of the war. Because I think that people, that's a really we don't think about that aspect of war a lot, and I think that's what a lot of people liked about Rian Johnson's Star Wars movie. It was one of the only things about it I liked, was that it posited that when war is happening, the same 5 people get rich. No matter what side you're on, there are people ready and waiting. Who needs AK-47s? Americans, Taiwanese, Russians. Who needs M16s with that weird cool grip? Domestic terrorists, white boys. They just start selling these weapons, and it doesn't matter who they go to. They have no dog in that fight at all. They're just selling weapons forever, and they profit. And it doesn't matter how bad the world gets, because they're so rich they can live wherever the war can't get to them. And I wanted to. Good. I just wanted to portray Cobra as that. I just wanted to portray Cobra as that. In the end, after all the stuff, instead of a stupid Hasbro ending, at the end, Destro and Baroness have basically gotten away. Their base got taken and all their soldiers got captured. Boo-hoo. They're somewhere sitting on 57 billion tons of gold bullion that they robbed from while the Earth was looking up to the sky. They were being crypto robbed. They were being regular, Fort Knox has no gold in it all of a sudden, because and the G.I. Joes have this big rousing victory. We beat these guys' ass. We're the best. But it wasn't, nobody was trying to fight you for real, and nobody was trying to end the world for real. Stupid. We live on the world. Why would we want to destroy it? We tricked your dumbasses, and we stole a bunch of gold and money and crypto and everything. And now we have enough money to really whoop your ass next time we want to. And at that point, I think that's a better coda than a transformer, frankly. I think
that's smart, because I think the other thing you could do is like, if you do introduce CoverGirl as being like this exceptional technologist or hacker, it's like she solves a problem in literally the first 10 minutes of the movie, which you think is just there to sort of put her over for the audience. But it turns out that she actually was onto something that they were doing in the background. And it's a little bit of the Kaiser Soze thing. Like at the very end of the movie, suddenly it all goes back to that bug I found in the banking code, which we saw like in the first 5 minutes of the movie. It's like, oh my God, that wasn't, a hacker in Russia. That was Cobra. They were planting that. And like everything that happened from minute 5 of the movie until right now was all just a distraction from that thing I thought I found in minute 5 of the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And even if it's one of those things where we could make it to where she basically, yes, she's a big part of them winning the physical victory, but that keystroke that she did in minute 5 might have won them. Yeah, like you said, might have won them the day, and did the thing is like, oh, wait a minute. So and then like the world financial markets start crashing and all this weird stuff starts happening. It's like we've won the day in our jingoistic, like beat ass way, throwing our guns in the sky. But in the cold light of day, the markets are messed up. The people are at their throats. We're still about to go to World War III, which sets up the sequel.
I do kind of love that. I mean, it's also, if you think about it, it's like she's at her desk and she's working on some problem that seems totally mundane. And it's like, it's just coding or it's just looking for things in code. And then they come to her and it's like, you got to crack this hard disk from 1988. And that sets us off on this whole other adventure. But the real thing, all she really needed to do was to keep looking at that code. You know what I mean? Like there's something very kind of nihilistic about that ending, but I kind of like it for that reason.
Well, it's just like it's a Cobra. We've made Cobra insidious. Like Cobra isn't just some people that you can militarily beat up. You have to, and that's kind of goes back to your point, Bill. In the episode, you really went hard on. We had a whack response to 9/11, and I was like, "Whoa, where's this guy going? This is demonetization and also FBI flagged. Like, what the hell is wrong?" But it was so. But you were so right that we tried to make it like we're gonna go fight that army. At that point, when we're dealing with terrorists, there ain't no army to go fight. You're fighting a kid on a laptop, a dude in a tree, a guy in a tunnel, a guy at a desk, a guy in a 3-piece suit. A guy with billions of dollars. All these people are who you're fighting, not an army. And that's what makes terrorism so insidious and messed up. So now we've established Cobra as a military force with advanced weapons and an insidious mental force able to use your stuff against you in a computer judo and steal from the world's markets. I mean, these Cobra guys are badass with this, just a little more inking. That's all I'm saying. Just a little more.
You've redeemed Cobra. That kids is the real miracle.
And I want to end on these last two comments mostly because they kind of go together, and I think it'll be fun to watch Bill respond to them.
Oh boy!
So Charles Clark said, "This episode is amazing. I do hope that you guys have your own bunkers to hide in, because between China, the military, and some hardcore G.I. Joe fanatics, y'all may have made some enemies today." And then Logan puts, "I love that the guy who actively hates G.I. Joe is trying to tell everyone how the story should go. Like, sit there and listen." And then you said, "Logan, why? Did I miss something?"
That is how I feel. Like, you're telling me to shut up, sit there and listen. Is there something I missed? Like, I don't know what you mean by that.
Yeah, I actually picked that comment out because in the episode, again, some of the reticence at the beginning was like me being wrong-footed, Bill not quite getting it, Billy having, not really having a love for the property, and Ron being like, "Dude, can we just start making something?" And that there wasn't anything better than what Bill was being proffered for a little bit. And then later, when we all got engaged and got excited, all including myself, we started making changes to the plot that made it less of a straightforward military situation and more of a, you're being tricked, you're being duped into being the dumb, dirty, ugly Americans everybody thinks you're going to be. Defy that, be better than that, and that added a lot of pathos and goodness, and that came from Bill too. So much like my over loquaciousness, like sometimes I listen to myself talk and I'm like, "Shut up, that's a lot, shut up." But there's gold in them dar hills, dummies. So maybe you might want to do some sifting. And with Bill, there's a lot that he's doing that can be a little abrasive or a little whatever, but the brilliance comes out of that as well. So just deal with it. That's why I picked that comment to say that.
I appreciate that, Ed. I also would say, like, again, for whatever reason, this one is one of the ones that I just don't have strong memories of. But as far as I can recall, I think a lot of the talking I was doing was just trying to get us moving in a direction that wasn't just, "Hey, this was really cool when I bashed my Snake Eyes and Cobra Commander action figures together as a kid." Like, how do we put that on the screen? Like, that's all I was trying to do. I'm not here to tell you that anything's dumb. That is Billy Business's shtick, and he will do that all day. But
Yeah.
All I'm saying is like, in terms of shut up and listen, I'm not here trying to ignore anything that anybody else has to say. I just hear it and want to work through it, and a lot of times past it. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't not hear what you like about G.I. Joe, whether it's you, commenter, or whether it's any of the other guys on the team here. It's more just like, okay, got it, fine. Now what's beyond that? What is more engaging? What makes more sense? What is more relevant? You know what I mean? And it doesn't come from a dismissive place. It just comes from like, cool, now let's make it better. If anything, it comes from a hubristic place, and I will never deny that. So leave it there.
Well, and before we get out of here, though, I do have one more comment that I think might be the most important comment that anyone could leave, and that's, there has to be someone that Tom Holland and Supernatural Brothers can be considered for in the cast. You can do it, Ron. You know what? I tried, and I couldn't do it.
I love it, Ron. Ron admits defeat.
But you know what's this was reported. That doesn't make it a fact, but it was reported that Tom Holland was in consideration for the for the G.I. Joe reboot they were trying to make a couple years ago. So, I mean, maybe Ron is more the Hollywood insider than any of us.
Look, I mean, it's very simple. Tom Holland sells movies right now, and they're going to put him in anything at this point because, until he stops having people show up for him, and then, they'll give up on him, and that'll be the end.
That tide might already be turning, because Tom Holland has been in a couple kind of weird off the beaten path, like Netflix and Amazon movies last year. And I don't think any of them got the bump that they were hoping that they would get from casting Tom Holland.
Yeah, no, they did.
I do think Hollywood is very much learning the lesson that the Marvel movies do not succeed because of star power. Like, people and it's a weird thing, right? It's sort of unprecedented in Hollywood. I'm not saying that the Marvel movies casting doesn't matter, because it really, really does. And Marvel does a really good job getting the perfect cast for those movies, but they don't function like movie stars. To a certain extent, the cast ends up almost becoming subsumed into the role in the eyes of the audience. So it's not that the audience is showing up because they love Tom Holland. They're showing up because they love Spider-Man as played by Tom Holland. But that doesn't mean that they're going to show up to see some weird preacher played by Tom Holland in your indie movie that you're hoping, you're going to get an extra $10 million for because you got Tom Holland in it. It's a weird dynamic.
Yeah, 100% agreed. And look, that's why I think that you could put Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles in something, and they would be great. That's all.
Jensen Ackles needs to shut up and cash the Metallo checks that we gave him.
Would be good as
Superman. That's all I got to say about that.
I think he's going to be great on The Boys too. The guy's actually way funnier than you think he is. Like, I'm not. No, Jared Padalecki, I don't think is as good as Jensen Ackles, but Jensen Ackles is like a pretty solid actor that, if given some stuff to work with, and especially if it was comedic, I think could be very good at it, honestly. That being said, Tom Holland, Jensen Ackles for everything. Okay. You guys, I got it in. That's what's most important. Look, this year we are going to recast Jensen Ackles as me. So that'll work out.
Hey,
great.
Listen, you know what? I can't wait to work with him. I think he's a great guy. I don't know why anybody has anything negative to say. Like, get him in here.
You guys, if Jensen Ackles was on our feed, we would make so much money.
That's what I'm saying. I'm completely contradicting my past rant, because I'm like, yes, let's bring in Jensen Ackles. It's going to get us way more eyeballs.
Absolutely. Okay, so you guys, that does it for Reboot Rewind. I hope you enjoyed it. We chatted about the things that were important to us and the ideas, and Ed really thought about this one. And I think you can see how important it is to us to do a good job for you guys, but not only for you guys, but for the idea of story. And that's kind of what we're creating here. We're creating a community of storytellers and creatives. So on behalf of myself, Ed Greer, producer Bill, and Billy, who is no doubt somewhere not
in heaven.
G.I. Joe, or taking care of his kid.
He's dead. He's dead, guy. Billy Business is dead. Let's keep that kayfabe up until he miraculously reappears.
Billy's dead.
We got him in some sort of a Norman Bates in his Norman Bates mom chair.
Dude, how cool would it be if we premiered season 4 of Reboot It and Billy Business is just unmoving in a chair for the whole hour and 15 minutes? And then it just becomes this weird meta joke that only the people who watch the rewinds get. And that's why you got to show up for the rewinds.
Dude, I don't want Reboot Rewind to become a weekend at Billy's.
So thank you guys for hanging out with us and being part of the community. You guys are great. And we will see you all next time. Bye.